You're alive.
Good morning. It is Senate Transportation. It is Thursday, January 8th. And we are this morning talking. We went around the table the first day, and one of the areas that was of general concern to every member of the committee around the table, and I took notes, was safety. And so I thought what we would do to kick that off is start with crash data and something that is harder than, and we thank you for coming in short notice. In the first week of the session, it's always a little hard for us to get everything going, and because most of us move from one life to another, and the one life to the other switch is not always pretty. But we are here with Mandy.
Yes.
And Wade. And if the two of you do you wanna sit together? How do you just tell us how you want to do this and introduce yourselves, and we this will be our start to talk about safety and not our last time.
Okay. Good to know. Good morning. For the record, my name is Mandy Shatney. I am the manager of the data and analytics section within the Operations and Safety Bureau at VTrans. Do you want to join me up here, Wade?
So Mandy put so much work into her presentation. I had very little for the commercial vehicle side, so I think I'll let her, if that's okay, and then.
Why don't you both introduce yourself, and then if you want to chime in, we don't end up with that.
Sure. Sounds good.
And I'm Wade Cochran, Director of Enforcement and Safety at DMV.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, so I'm going to go through our crash data. I did a little comparison from 2024 to 2025 for you. I'll also just preface this. I am doing this a lot earlier this session, and our fatal crash data is still not finalized. So for the fatal crashes, we need to wait. It's a very specific 720 hours after the last of the year, because if somebody dies within that period of time from a crash in December, so that brings us out into February usually before we can fully say that our fatalities are final. Okay, so I'll preface all of this with that, and I'll probably say it again a few more times through this. All right, so I'll just walk us through some of our data here. I pulled together this slide to share with you to show our annual fatalities and the 5-year average fatalities. There's also There's also a chart here to show the serious injuries. I wanted to show you that because our serious injuries and our fatalities are both trending up. So I pulled this out. Normally we look at just a 5-year snapshot. I pulled this out to 10 years to give you kind of a better view of what's really happening. I like to usually talk about how fatalities are funny because we usually have a dip 1 year out of 5. So that's what this is kind of showing. So in 2019, we dropped to 47, but then we climbed very quickly in 2022 to 76 fatalities from 47. We did see a couple of years decrease again, and then we are seeing yet again this year an increase.
Two numbers.
I'm sorry.
The two numbers.
So in the column or in the bar chart part, that is the total number of fatalities. The lower number, and then the upper number along the orange
That's
line.
representing the orange.
Those are 5-year averages.
Okay.
So the line at the top's a 5-year average.
Yes. So we track 5-year averages. It's a 5-year rolling average. It's a standard it's a standard national approach. So we usually we track that more closely because our fatalities, as you can see, kind of fluctuate year to year. So this kind of it controls the statistical fluctuations. And Vermont has I mean, compared to larger states, obviously, we have a low number of fatalities, but for Vermont, I think any number of families losing a loved one is tragic. And then the 5-year averages are also used in our strategic highway safety plan.
You know,
Wow.
can I just,
Absolutely.
So 2022 was a high year.
Yes.
And 2022 was in the middle of COVID. And my sense is that we were traveling a lot less miles,
Correct.
but the fatal crashes is dramatically up. Does anybody compare estimates of miles traveled versus this? Because I would think that if the amount of miles traveled was down, shouldn't the fatalities be down? But this is completely opposite from that.
We tracked with national trends. 2020 was the first year of COVID. Our fatalities jumped from 47 to 62. They jumped again to 74, and then they went up again to 76. The vehicle miles traveled, so we call that the VMT, that decreased exponentially in 2020. It did rebound a little bit in 21 and a little bit more in 2022, but we do track that. It's called a fatal crash rate. So it is a statistical piece of information that we do track. There's a national crash rate. Vermont also does our own. I didn't put that information in here. I'm happy to share that with you all.
If you could share that, because it just seems like we dramatically dropped in miles traveled during those periods of time, and the crash rate is up, and it just seems weird.
Yeah. And you can see our serious injuries also increased in 2021 and 2022. So it wasn't just fatal crashes. And that's why I don't normally share the serious injury stuff. But I wanted to, because it's not just our people are dying, people are being seriously injured at a higher rate as well. So that's definitely an issue.
Go ahead.
And do you also compare the national crash rate? Do you compare it to other states? I assume you have that data. Like, how do we compare it to maybe New Hampshire?
We do have that. We've been taking a look at that a little bit. Interestingly enough, other states are not. Their data is a little harder to find sometimes, so not all states share it as quickly as we have ours. But we have one of my data analysts, I think, Tanya Miller, if any of you ever see any crash facts stuff, she's my FARS analyst. She's been pulling all of that together in kind of a larger data set. So I can find out what she has and also share that.
Know if we're an outlier to other New England states or to even other states.
We usually track really closely with Rhode Island of all the states. Rhode Island's similar in size, and for some reason they have a similar number of fatalities.
Oh.
But I do think that they have a higher vehicle miles traveled number. So, but I'll look into that, VMT, and then other states.
So Rhode Island has higher vehicle miles traveled than us?
I think they have, because they have don't they have a slightly high, I'm not sure about their population.
I shouldn't.
They go around.
I could drive across the whole state.
Yeah, they're a smaller state in size, but as far as population, I think they're a little bigger. Yeah. All right. Any other questions?
Well, you're going to talk about the other components to this too, right?
Yes.
Because
I'm gonna break
there are
it down.
things that are not related to miles traveled that are really impactful on.
Yeah, if you get a chance and you can send over some stuff about the comparisons for miles traveled. And we may have a few other charts that we'd like to.
Yes, the VMT one is interesting. I actually almost put it in here and then I was like, that's too much.
No, there's not too much for us to share.
Okay, good, right? It's hard to know when you're pulling these things together. So, Okay, so I shared this last year. I wanted to really just put this back up on the screen because when I move over to our 24 to 25, you'll see an interesting change. So last year I shared from 23 to 24, we saw decreases in fatalities, impaired driver fatal crashes, unbelted fatalities, and motorcyclist fatalities.
And this is a decrease from 22 to.
Yes, this is the previous. And we saw increases in speed and pedestrians. So I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this one because I want to get to the next one. Just as a reminder, these are like differences of a couple of people in a lot of cases, right? So the fatalities was a difference of 10, but most of them were 5 to 6 but our motorcycles went from 18 and 23 to 6 and 24. So that's why you see that huge decrease. All right, so this is our 24 to 25. Very big difference from the previous year. Our fatalities increased. It was a difference of 2. So that still shows an increase. And we had driver impaired fatal crashes is increasing. That's a difference of 6 crashes where and again, I mentioned I would say this multiple times. Our data is not final. We do not have toxicology for any of our December crashes, and there are 8 of those. So keeping that in mind, we know 4. I think when I was looking at it, I have it written down somewhere. Oh, I have it on the next slide. So we do have some information, but we don't have all of them. Our unbelted fatalities, those changed. Those are increasing as well. And I have this little window I can't see. Our speed related fatalities decreased a little bit. That was a difference of 7. So we went from 20 crashes with speed related from 27 to 20, I'm sorry. Our pedestrian fatalities increased, which was a difference of 3 people. So we went from 6 to 9 this year in 2025. And our motorcyclist fatalities increased and they went back from 6 to 9. So
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. And this, I mean, we all had a sense that things were more dangerous and they are. A question about, so if there's driver impaired and speed in the same crash, which do you choose?
we would count them both.
Both?
So in
Okay.
here, this would be like just looking at speed, then just looking at impaired. But a lot of our crashes have multiple factors.
Okay.
So like impaired, unbelted, speeding, there was a pedestrian hit, like all of those could happen in one crash.
But in this analysis,
I'm not.
there aren't
Yeah,
duplicates?
there is duplicate.
There are duplicates.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
duplication.
Okay.
I'm just looking at impaired and then I'm just looking at unbelted. And so those could cross over. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And then the category, or is there a category for driver distraction?
We do look at that. Unfortunately, distraction is really difficult to nail down
Yeah.
and it's likely underreported.
Right.
And underreported by the operator, underreported, therefore by law enforcement who wouldn't know if somebody doesn't report it. I was literally just in a motor vehicle crash this past weekend. Somebody rear-ended me.
Oh.
And she hit me so hard that there's no way that she was doing the 5 miles an hour that she told the police officer. So, but that's what gets reported in the report. So those are the types of things, like if you've ever been through something like this, you know that there are things that their hands are tied a little bit based on what they're told.
Can't they get, like, a lot of times people are on their phone, basically.
All
what
the
it
time,
is.
yeah.
And I don't know
So-
if she was. I
And
couldn't
one of the
see.
Yeah.
issues for us comes on the policy side is we passed no handphones.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think we've all seen the people with the phone up like this in front of them
It's
as
very
they're
bad.
pulling through an intersection.
Yeah, that's
And
it is.
And if we aren't enforcing it, but yet we've had the law, I personally really have a problem with us having laws that we don't
Yeah.
enforce because I think it leads to people not respecting the law. that just my, so, and not being able, and I think most of us think of distraction for the most part now, the biggest culprit would be on the phone.
Agreed. But
And-
there are so many other things.
Yep.
that- Yeah, I mean, when I was 16, I went off the road, and the reason I went off the road was not because of a cell phone, because that was way too long ago. But I had a dog in the car, and I looked back to see what, he was bouncing around. I'm like, what are you doing? And I drove off the road. Like, there's so many other things. There's kids, there's dogs, there's the radio, but yes, we mostly think of cell phones now because we're seeing that so prevalently on the roads.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two questions. I want to know if you have data around like human and animal related crashes, and fatalities, because I have desires to have a wildlife corridor at some point in our state. And I think that the best reason to do that is to eliminate, the goal would be to eliminate deer human crashes. So I'd love if you have any information on that. And then you're using the term crash very specifically.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you could update me on like why we used to say accident. And I'm wondering, if you could just describe where we are culturally with the word crash and why we use it.
So culturally, I mean, I've been working for the Agency of Transportation for 26 years with the crash data. And culturally, before I even came into my job, we've been trying to change the word to crash. The reason for that is that I don't remember the exact statistic, but it's like 90 some odd percent, probably close to 98, 99% of crashes are due to human error. So once you move into that space, it's not an accident, right? Like, so something has to occur for the car to either leave the road, for somebody to rear end somebody, for, I get like icy roads are totally a thing. But still, if you're going too fast to successfully stop your car behind another vehicle, or if you're unable to maintain your lane, things like that, there's definitely still another factor. So we've moved in that direction. In my world, I know insurance companies and TV, you hear accident all the time still, and we haven't quite broken that into that world of everybody calling them crashes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
In your charts and this gets into the more wonky detail stuff. I think of the last 5 years as really not normal. I think of it as we had those dips because of COVID that really affect 2, 3, 4 years in this. And somewhat the concern in here is, do we have the same level of enforcement out now that we had before COVID? Are we doing things different? Is there a way that the chart, we could get, what was the 5-year average for the last 5 years? What was the 5-year average from say 15 to 20, 10 to 15? So we can just get, and to try to even out the bumps of the 1 year or a bump that might happen. But so we could see in 5-year increments where we're headed.
Okay. I can't speak to law enforcement. I'm not sure if Wade would like.
Well,
to,
I
but
will, what I would rather start is we see the numbers about in the overall, the crashes that, how many people died and how many people were injured.
Mhm.
So are we headed in the wrong direction?
Okay.
And try to, because when you have 1 year to the next, if you have a big, huge crash and 3 people passed away, that can skew the whole numbers.
absolutely.
But in a 5-year increments, I think you get,
Mhm.
and what we're trying to figure out is, are we in the overall headed in a direction that we should be concerned about?
I will take a look and you,
Does that go?
I just also, does AOT have any data on enforcement? They don't collect any, they don't get any for public safety on that.
we don't know how many law enforcement officers are on the road and, or,
Or how many
yeah, we don't.
stops or tickets, so we'd have to get that email
That is a
We have-
data set, but,
from
It's not-
public safety.
yeah, public safety or the judicial bureau would know. I can't speak to that,
I'm sure Wade would have it for commercial trucks, but we're not all total.
right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
We're gonna have public safety, and we should, I think, ask the ticket bureau how many tickets are handed out in,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, what's the trend on that? would
Collecting
be?
that data.
Senator, I have a really quick question. You want just overall fatalities, or are you thinking the 5-year increments for all of these
I-
categories?
How hard is it for you to collect?
A lot of these are already done, and I can see,
Give us something so we can understand the trends.
Okay. I will,
And whatever you think is important, right?
Well, that's
So-
what I'm basically saying.
Yeah.
Give us something so we can understand the trends and overall importance in that. I don't want you to take days and days of you and your staff at time, but I think it should be easy. It shouldn't be really difficult to give us an overall feel for what's happening.
we've been tracking a lot of this for a lot of years, and I have phenomenal data analysts that work for me, so we can definitely pull something together for you. I have a few more slides, and I was gonna show you our website too, really quick too, so maybe there's some stuff in there that will answer some of your questions too.
Be transparency.
Yeah, no, that's not my website, but no, we are on the VTrans website though.
Well, never mind.
All right, I pulled together a quick slide to show the trend for our impaired driver crashes. Again, we're seeing this kind of comes up and down over the years. Again, I put 10 years out here for you. We had a dip last year, and then we're tracking back up again to about 60, just under 64% of our crashes right now. And as I mentioned, our toxicology data is still not in for December. So that number will most likely change a little bit, but that's where we're at right now.
That's huge because
Yeah.
just generally alcohol has been number one.
And then you can see it's dropped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, drug other has taken its place. It would have been nice if we had just the drop from alcohol.
Agreed.
I mean, that's scary. Actually, that the fifth line, drug other, that's a lot.
And this is just fatal crashes, what we definitely
Oh
know.
my gosh.
So
Is that because you only have data for fatal?
we only get toxicology for fatal crashes or any serious crashes that law enforcement report back to us. If they get toxicology and do not update the crash report form, then we wouldn't know about it. But that's what's a little scary to me, is that what we know is that 60-some% of our drivers in fatal crashes are impaired. So
And this is-
anecdotally, you gotta wonder.
Sorry, this is the person that died, but not necessarily the person that was responsible for the crash.
This is the, any driver. Yeah, this may not even be the cause.
Okay,
This could be driver two.
right.
Somebody hit a driver that was impaired potentially, like unfortunately that happens.
The other day I drove behind somebody, drove 5 miles an hour or 2. And I was like, I think the person was, because
Yeah.
it wasn't snow, it was just like,
That's why you kept flashing your lights at me. I know.
It wasn't attractive.
But Senator White,
What is, okay, Delta 9 THC, I don't even know what that means. So what is that? And then why do we break it out? And yeah, can you buy? What is that?
Marijuana.
Oh, okay, so Delta 9 THC is just saying cannabis.
It can,
THC.
yes.
Oh, okay, so it's like,
Toxicology.
okay,
And THC is the active component of it. So we don't track some of the other inactive things. We track it, but we don't report it
yeah, like
this way.
CBDs.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see that you just have it called out if they have THC essentially in their system or not. And we had spent quite a bit of time talking about the saliva test when we were originally talking about cannabis. Is that how you're getting that data? Oh,
Almost all of this is from the toxicology reports, which is usually blood or other things. And I would prefer that the tox lab talk to you about all the
Oh.
different types of tests.
okay.
But yes, most of this is blood.
And so other drugs so I see how you're breaking it
So-
out. That makes sense. So it's like other drugs would be cocaine.
Depressants, stimulants, hallucinogens, and dissociative anesthetics, narcotic analgesics, inhalants, and then Delta 9 THC, which is in the category of cannabis.
Okay, thank you.
Would be interesting to me is, and I always wonder about this when they're doing the tests. Are we doing more tests now than we were 10 years ago?
Mm.
And are we better at testing now than we were 10? And has there been a change? And that's not a question that I suspect you have an answer to, but the labs that are doing this, is this all consistent data?
Yes, I would definitely talk with the toxicology lab about the evolution of the lab, because I know in Vermont, we didn't always have a lab.
Right, I know that.
That's another piece of that, but
When did we get a lab?
I do not know which year we got our lab.
In Colchester.
Yeah, it is in Colchester. I know
Not
that.
that long ago.
Yeah.
Is that because that's where a lot of people need their blood?
Yeah, we have a real issue.
Well, I think it would just be interesting to hear from the lab, because I know we didn't have a lab, and, I'm looking at this going, was 16 the year we got a lab.
Yeah.
No, I shortened this down to 10 years. I have multiple years before
Yep.
that, but slides only allow for so much
When
data.
did cannabis become legal? Your paper?
Oh, 2018, 16, somewhere around there. So
So not a big change based on that as far as THC.
And I-
Well, I guess it's with the others, so it's hard to tell.
I can't remember which year it was legalized, but it was decriminalized
Oh, right.
prior to that. I actually have a chart showing the change over time and with it marked, and I just didn't put that in
Sure,
here
sure.
either. I've been tracking that for a long time. and
Yeah, this is wild. Just like, if you take the top three that include alcohol, it's 14, which is still much lower than the 20.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if you do an overlap of THC and the other drugs, especially the other drugs, I mean, that's really concerning.
It is.
So the other drug doesn't necessarily include THC, but it could.
But it could.
I should put that word in there actually, now that
Because it looks like it does.
yeah.
Yeah, and obviously there would be some that don't.
I will fix that, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Can you
It's always
get?
good to have more eyes on this stuff, because I'm always like, oh, well, I know what it means,
Yeah.
but. Yes, so some of these do not include Delta 9 or cannabis, and there are other drugs like fentanyl and all kinds of other combinations. And there are one thing we haven't really been doing a ton of, and I did it in the past, was look at like polydrug versus singular drug.
Hmm.
And then what drug types are more prevalent, and that's changing too in Vermont as a generally that is changing.
Yeah, that would be helpful. I mean, I think as specific as we can be is helpful.
Go ahead, Pat.
On all your alcohol, categories, the first three, they're all over the legal limit on
Correct.
alcohol. But you must have some stops that like alcohol at 0.004, and then a combination of THC that brings you over, correct?
So for alcohol, actually, it was interesting when I was working with Tanya yesterday to pull this together. I actually took one off of the alcohol only line. So there were three, but then she said, well, one of those drivers was 0.077. So I removed it. So that would have been three otherwise, but the person was just under the legal limit. But we get those numbers even so. So
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
But where does that go?
that would have gone in the alcohol only.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So they didn't have drugs.
yeah.
So where did it go? Still, it's fatality.
It's still a fatality.
Just wouldn't be on this sheet.
It wouldn't be on this sheet.
Speed or whatever. the other-
Yeah, I mean, it might show up in
Right.
one of those other categories, absolutely.
All right.
Okay. Anything else in this one? Talked a little bit about occupant protection or restraints. Again, where we're seeing this well over 50% of our fatalities that have the option to wear a seatbelt that do not. And well, I don't know about as a result, but they're being killed in crashes without their belt. Go ahead.
Just a question.
Go ahead.
How, do you know how many of those are, children?
Oh.
Or could you find out how many?
So we do have a line in the chart or the graph. I'm sorry, in the chart next to it, it says improper child restraint is 0, but we don't break it out to say that. But
Or teenagers even maybe. I don't know.
That
Well,
might be-
whatever would be useful, because of this, we need to do outreach.
teens, kids, we don't believe we had any small children and that were killed this year, but I can't remember for sure.
So
They might not be on here anyway.
just help me. So if I'm looking at your chart and it says unbelted,
Mhm.
and I do drivers at 18 for 25, and you have 61?
61 fatalities.
61 fatalities.
Yeah.
So that's less than a third. So when I'm looking at this and it says 56%, what
Correct.
does that mean?
So we're not counting pedestrians, bicyclists, motorcyclists, anybody that wouldn't wear a seatbelt. We're not actually we're not calculating them in that percentage. So if anybody that had the option of wearing a seatbelt in a car, a truck, like a tractor trailer truck, like any of those vehicles where a seatbelt is an option,
Yeah,
we then take that number and then divide that by the number of unbelted people. So it's only that top 21, 17, and 0. So 21 and 17, which would be 38
mhm.
divided by 61, I believe is how we're coming up with that. So it's a little over 60% or 50%, sorry.
Okay. And and my question in that what it brings up is because we our belting law is secondary, not primary. How would our numbers relate to national numbers?
Fatality wise, I'm not positive. I can look into that one.
Yeah, because the
However-
question is, I know that even in the states where they have, primary enforcement where
Mhm.
they do that. It must be in those states. I would think we probably are tracking pretty close or better to the places that are primary. But I don't,
Yeah,
it would be nice to be able to see that within this.
I believe that's one other data point Tanya is working on pulling for other states, specifically for the Northeast, but I'll take a look at that. I think we track higher than national defense,
That, if that.
but I will look into
But yeah,
that.
I just would like the,
Yeah.
Maybe we are, but I can't tell from this.
Yes, yeah. I can take a look at that for you.
I'm always open to that conversation.
Go ahead.
This thing, so I am so glad that we are talking about this early so that we can do something. So just two questions. So we looked at crashes that killed or hurt people. Are just crashes that didn't hurt people, are those increasing also? Are they following the same trend? Or can you tell us in
Our number of total crashes annually is dropping, but it's a reporting. There's some changes in reporting policies around the state for law enforcement. I was trying not to bring that up.
what else are you trying not?
No, no, I just, it's
That's complicated.
it's something
so-
we're working on
Okay.
with them. We've been doing a lot of outreach with law enforcement. We're trying to get all crashes I used my crash as an example.
Yeah.
That's a reportable crash, even though nobody was injured, nobody was killed, but there was damage. So those are the types of crashes that aren't always necessarily making it into our system anymore. So we have seen a drop from, we were getting around 10 to 14,000 crashes over several years. Last year we received around 7,000, which is a huge drop.
Huh.
And as far as looking at our fatalities and our serious injuries increasing over time, one would think that other crashes that aren't significant were also increasing, but there might be a change in how they're being reported.
One would think that. Wow, okay, so then my other question is just, insurance companies are really good at keeping track of things just on their own. I moved here from another state and our auto insurance went down like by, we paid in Vermont, for a year, what we had paid in Florida for a month. Because this is a very safe state, or has been. So I think it might be helpful to talk to insurance companies or maybe if you have other suggestions, because when trends like this happen, prices go up,
Mhm.
right? And that's gonna be a way to get people's attention on, your car insurance is gonna go up if we keep going this way. I mean, obviously the hurt, to individuals is the first horrible thing. But I think we should talk to the insurance companies if we can about this.
So maybe a theory I have, you tell me if I'm all wet, but I would think maybe it's due to the monetary damage in the accident, in the amount of time it takes an officer to do a report, maybe.
I think you're onto something, Sandra.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think since COVID.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of changes to just law enforcement in general. But it is cars, damage for my vehicle alone, which was just a bumper and a back corner panel, but it's gonna be $3,500.
Yeah.
there is a statute that says that as an operator, I need to report to the MP, but the statute for law enforcement is that if they investigate a crash, they must report it. So we're trying to remind everybody that that's the case, you know, that these aren't all non-reportable crashes that are happening. So we've been doing, Tanya has done, we've kind of done a new wholesale training out to law enforcement. And so she's done, I think, 40 some odd trainings this past year with them. And we're continuing that this year to just talk to them a little bit more about what's reportable and what's not reportable, and how to use our system. We're constantly making upgrades to that to make life easier for them to get these in. All right.
Thank you so much for being here.
I don't know what time it is. Way over time.
Don't worry. No,
Do you?
This is me.
Oh, yeah,
yeah, should we have?
Yeah, why don't you go and show us where we can find data ourselves?
Okay.
And then I have been kind of keeping track of a few questions that we may want you to get back to us.
All right, let's see. I'm gonna reshare.
Because we have about a half an hour before them, but we don't expect you to take the full half hour.
No, that's all right. I'm sure Wade would love it.
Okay, I can say, I appreciate the be transparency thing, because this is what I've always used, is the public crash data query
Yeah.
tool they have on it.
That is
So,
ours.
oh, that is
Oh, that
here.
is ours.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see where else you're like, because that's the only one that I've used. Because people will ask me and say, I heard there was a terrible crash, and you can find it.
Yes,
It takes a little bit, but
it does.
find it.
It's reliant on law enforcement to get the report submitted. So once that's in there, you will see it on there. So this is our data and analysis sections website. We do track fatalities on here. So this little chart is as of the 5th of January for every year. So we're trying to compare, like, as of this time last year, or in 2024, we had one fatality. So we have a whole bunch of links in here. We have an analysis showcase. We have a manual for law enforcement to use for filling out the crash report form. We recently put in a story map so that they can just a more training tools for law enforcement is what we're going for. Within my section, we also do traffic data. So the VMT, all of that data is also collected in my group and analyzed. We have the public query tool, as you mentioned, is here. We have a data request form that people can request data from us. And then we also have, I'm gonna hop over to this really quick. So this is a strategic highway safety plan website. I think I shared this last year. Back to that 5-year rolling average. There's a whole bunch of different data in here. And this is all, as we've been talking for the last 45 minutes about the different categories, right? So impaired driving, occupant protection. These are all our critical emphasis areas for our 5-year strategic plan. All of these are, let's do this one. All of these are dashboards, and you can filter them however you like. There's a map. It'll show you where those crashes are occurring, and hopefully it's coming. It doesn't come in.
Go ahead.
Mandy, so your plan is about the data, right? You're collecting and analyzing the data and
Correct.
interpreting it. Who is taking that data and working on policy?
Good question.
I mean, is there the governor's safety council still operation? Because I remember they would come in and say, we recommend X because of the data we're getting. But
Yeah.
is anybody doing this? Are they still around?
So the governor's highway safety program is what I've known it to be called for a long time. Is, I don't know if they're called, I know they're not called that anymore. So our state highway safety office does a lot of behavioral safety work.
Right.
So there's a lot of media campaigns and work with grant data for law enforcement to do specified enforcement activities.
So they're doing the public outreach stuff about
Right.
and drinking and driving, but they don't do they don't say like, we think we should do X as a policy change or a legal change.
Yeah, I don't know who's doing a whole lot of that.
There's the Vermont Safety Alliance, Highway Safety Alliance, which is a nonprofit.
Yeah,
But I don't,
I'm part of that too.
yeah, I don't know if you have a legislative, well, maybe you know, do they have a legislative? I know they're coming at some point to the State House, but
I don't recall having anybody from the legislature part of it. Yeah, it's changed a lot over the last few years, so we're doing some work there, but yeah, that could be a place to start. So just showing the dashboard here, which you can click on a year and see how that changes some of the dashboards, or you can, if you're interested in your county, we'll do Grand Island County. Well, so that shows fatalities and serious injuries over the last so many years. So you can kind of play with the data. You can also look at specific age groups, injury types, operator gender. So we've done quite a bit of work on this. The strategic highway safety plan is due to be updated in the coming year. So hopefully we'll be able to time the new update with a new website as well. Let me get in here. And then I just talked a little bit about some of our other things that we do. We have been doing a story map every year for the last few years. We actually Tanya just put this on the website for me so I could share it with you all today for 2024. It took a little bit more time. DMV is doing their whole upgrade, and so it took a little longer for us to get some information we needed for some of this. So we talk a little bit about how often crashes occur, who's crashing, why they're crashing, and where. So we break that down. So back to the question about we had just over 7,000 crashes in 2024. It's looking about the same for 2025. So again, this kind of breaks everything down, showing the fatalities again with a trend line. A lot of the things that I've shared with you is in here, but it's also a whole bunch of information breaking it down as to what different crashes are. And then breaking like who down by like driver or passenger, where they're from, the age, or by sex. So I won't scroll through this whole thing, but there are some maps in here. So I would encourage you, if you're interested in seeing some of this breakdown, to hop in here and take a look. The links are in the PowerPoint that I shared.
This is Power BI.
This is actually ArcGIS. It's a story map piece that they've implemented. We've been able to do this the last few years, so it's really cool.
Go ahead.
I'm wondering I know that you are a data analyst, if that's the right terminology. So I don't want to ask you a question that like goes beyond your scope, but one of the things that's talked about a lot in the media lately with pedestrian deaths is that the types of vehicles that people are driving are making the death of a pedestrian, not necessarily just injuries, more likely, because our vehicles are getting bigger and where people are getting hit is usually at a different point in their body. I'm wondering if you're seeing that, if you're seeing any kind of trend between where there may have just been an injury in the past, someone is getting hit in a way that is ending their life.
Yeah, I don't know as I can speak to that. I think, and I've read the same things. I've definitely, after so many years of going to conferences and hearing national things about all these different types of crashes, it's definitely, I've heard that. Kind of like I've heard that backseat passengers rarely wear seatbelts compared to the front seat. A lot of that is information that we can try to cull out of our data. But I think that for what you're talking about, that would be more of an injury type data set from our Department of Health.
Oh, okay.
they might be able to tell you whether or not the injuries sustained in these crashes are because of a larger vehicle versus a smaller vehicle.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it'd be interesting if we could ever get like the type of vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And also looking at like the age groups that are pedestrians in Vermont versus in other states might be something to look at, because nationally pedestrians are a hot topic. Ours kind of remains steady around that 6 to 10 every year. It has been for quite a few years, but nationally those numbers are skyrocketing. So yeah, that's another piece of that.
Go ahead, Pat.
Do you categorize the pedestrian fatality, like, was it the driver? Was it pedestrian carelessness or?
We do
You
track, yes, we do track whether or not it was the driver at fault or the pedestrian did something that was like darting out in front of a car or crossing the street with dark clothing. We also collect whether or not the pedestrian or the bicyclist had drugs or alcohol in their system.
Okay.
And we do have a couple of those in our data set for last year. But they're not listed because they weren't driving the car, so
Yeah.
we keep that out.
I was hopeful that your chart on older drivers would
I know, I didn't come
more, and it didn't come up. Are we seeing an increase in accidents amongst older drivers? One would think because of our demographics, they might be.
I can't say for sure. I do have our older driver fatalities and serious injuries behind me. As you can see, those have trended up the last few years, and that if we're looking at this 5-year average,
And older
Oh, no, those are-
driver means over 65?
65 and over.
Was
Yes,
it 76 the total?
yeah, sorry, those are total fatalities. Sorry,
I was like, they're all.
Oh,
that's all fatalities.
that's not just over.
No, that's,
So it says over.
yeah, maybe this needs to be.
Can't be that high, can it?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
like what percentage of are associated?
Yeah, you have a pie chart last year.
Yeah, I'll have to ask Ben about this one. It's his baby. So 2025, it shows 8.
Oh,
Yeah. And then we already have one serious injury this year, it looks like.
Six or 8 out of 76 last year.
Correct. So that's you change from January 8 out. That's can't really do much comparison to this year yet. Yeah.
Since a lot of our everything are what's affecting me and becomes anecdotal to all of it. And since we've got 20 minutes before the secretary comes and I will get us a break. I partly asked the question because demographically we're getting older.
Yes.
And I've gone through the experience of taking the license away from my father and all of that piece, and it becomes difficult. And this is my story. My Aunt Phyla now lives in Maine, near my cousin. And we all remember when she took the license away from her father. So when she's now 93 and still driving. And she now in Maine takes the driver's test every year.
Mhm.
And has since she turned 85 years old, she's taken the driver's test every year, and she made the commitment that she would give up her license as soon as they told her that she passed the test in December for this year. And so she's able to, within her community, her scope of driving has gone down.
Mhm.
She reached 90, she stopped doing the Massachusetts Turnpike and didn't drive to Albany to her daughters. But it's got smaller, but she still drives to her doctor's appointments in the community she's in and does it. But she takes the test herself every year,
All her.
voluntarily. And they have a program that encourages people to voluntarily do that in Maine. And I've never heard about any program here where we voluntarily said to older people, you have the option to do that. I think for me in families that have older family members, if there was that option to be able to say, you've reached the age, we want you to take the test, and someone else from outside helping. So in a population where we have more elderly drivers, and I don't want to tell somebody that, you know, I think my Aunt Phyla is being quite responsible.
Yeah.
And she's taking her test every year, and she's made the commitment that that's a lot different than pulling a license.
Yeah.
By a family member in it. And so
The Vermont Highway Safety Alliance does partner with AARP, and I know they have a lot of programs for older drivers.
Okay.
I think that they would be great to talk to about what their programs are in Vermont and what their outreach is.
that would be actually something, if Megan, you could put that, I'd be interested in that because with an aging population, I have no desire to make anything mandatory about that. But I do think that an option for families to be able to say, we're concerned, but you know, here's a way to move that conversation along. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. A question around your data for restricted licenses or folks who are not allowed to drive or unlicensed. One of the concerns that I have, and that we have a bill coming our way about, is super speeders, people who are repeatedly the problem, essentially. I have anecdotally felt that it is a small group of people who are causing an inordinate amount of crashes and also almost crashes. So if you have any, and there was a stat that the super speeder white paper had that said that 75% nationally of folks with restricted licenses were still driving. So only about 1/4 of them were actually never driving, even though the entire group was not supposed to be driving. So if you have any data about how many of these crashes are happening where someone wasn't allowed to drive and the crash is still happening, and speed would also be really helpful if there's any information about the speed that is causing the fatalities, because I do think a reason we see fewer injuries and more death may be because of just the speed people are going while they're driving.
I will.
So if you have any data on that, that would be helpful for understanding it.
We already do track the number of suspended licenses in fatal crashes. So I have that. I just didn't put that in my slides, but yeah, definitely have that. But I will cross-reference that with whether or not that crash specifically was speed related as well.
Amazing.
So circle back and then take.
Yeah.
Do you have stuff you'd like to add?
Most of the Chair, what I would.
Do you want to come up? Okay.
Can I just say before that, and anybody add this, your chart that you indicated you had on miles traveled, if we could get versus that, if we could get that, if we could do stuff in 5-year trends, so we could get the overall belted versus the national data, if we could just get belted to see where we fit. And I would just ask you generally, it isn't a question around this table, is enforcement down? And if there's, and this may be coming into your area too, any questions we should be asking to be able to bring some clarity around that issue? What are the questions we should be asking around that issue to make that clearer for us? Because I think what you hear from people around this table is questions that we get from our constituents. People say people are driving faster in there, or there's more people on the road that are driving without registered vehicle. What are the questions we should be asking that we might not be thinking about?
I would definitely reach out, Chair, to the Judicial Bureau. I think a lot of answers.
And they're on our list.
I think they would have probably the best information, and
Okay,
they go, I mean, they can go back years.
Okay.
So.
perfect.
recommend that. The only thing that I really have to add, and most of they should be all of our numbers go to Mandy's team as well. However, we have to report ours to Federal Motor Carrier when we respond, or our team responds to a crash. So we did have 100, and this is January to December. And much like Mandy, we hope all of December's in, but likely it's not as of this date. In Vermont, we had 152 crashes related to commercial vehicles. Our team responded to 87 of them. What that essentially means is state police could have handled some of them, or we didn't go to all. We had 4 fatalities out of those. With those fatalities, though, that was only with 3 crashes. There was a double fatality that Mandy also covered in her slide. What we have the luxury of doing, though, when we have any crash with a commercial motor vehicle, is our team basically breaks down the truck and goes through it to see if there's any fault to a commercial vehicle where, if the troops are going out to a motor vehicle crash, they may not have that ability. And then that is a little different.
And when you say commercial vehicles, is this only the tractor trailers, or is it like the I don't know, that plumbing van or something, like a commercial vehicle, but a small vehicle?
Right, like it has to meet a certain criteria, of course. A plumbing vehicle, probably not. A Ryder truck, a UPS truck, yes. So
Just by weight?
by weight, by size. So
Well, there should be a lot more of those because we've got a lot more delivery trucks on the road.
Yeah, so so many of those drivers are CDL drivers, right? So
Correct.
they have a lot of restrictions
yes.
on them. And then isn't there something relatively new or on the tractor trailers? The owner of the trailer can make it so that you don't go more than a certain speed on the highway, so that limits it. So I would think that crashes have come down over the last 20 years.
And
I don't know.
I can't answer that because I barely got this
Oh, okay.
this morning. I can find out for you.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
But there's cameras that they're required to have within a commercial vehicle, which tells the story in an accident. That's great. We can refer back to that. So, but yes, there is. I know there's speed settings and some. So I don't know all.
Yeah,
It's required.
The
Required by
cameras
the
are,
company.
Yeah,
by Federal Motor Carrier.
Really?
So yeah,
it's the cameras
out looking and within the cab.
within.
So
For any commercial CDL,
I would have to confirm that with Captain Nesto, because that was something that I just learned the other day from him on a fatal that we're dealing with. So, yeah, but I will get that answer for you.
Curious to know if it's intra or interstate.
I'm pretty sure it's enter.
Okay. Okay.
Only for the
So
interstate vehicle.
interstate would be moving outside of the state borders. I believe, right? Did I get
That's
that right?
right.
Yes.
You did.
Right.
I always,
Yeah.
I always like to think of that.
Right. You have to play it through.
Yeah.
Well, if there's anything useful for interstate, tell us, or intrastate rather.
Yeah, Tur is out and
Yeah.
is.
Well, most of those. I'd be surprised if anybody with a big truck was only doing interest, like, not like it's a hard business model to say, I'm not gonna wait for a month.
I don't think it would be financial.
Yes,
Well,
Actually,
well, I-
fuel trucks and stuff, but I'm thinking of
Yeah,
mechanisms that we could use
Well,
in
fuel
cars.
trucks, I think a lot of, if
you
you're
have to go to Albany.
a logging truck.
Right.
There,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of the guys that have logging trucks that are in my area don't leave the area.
Like a dump truck. I mean,
Yeah. You know, and if you're working on a specific construction site, bringing stuff in it. So I think that's a mixed bag. I think if you're a tractor trailer truck
Yeah.
itself, you're probably going out of state.
Oh, well, I'm calling in. And that's basically what I have, Chair.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
You know, I know we just went around the table on Tuesday and said, what are the issues that, and safety became, you know, was really clear. It's one of the top things. So I think it's a great kickoff to start with the numbers and we, so the Judicial Bureau was honored, but anybody that you think that we ought to talk to that is collecting information, would be great.
Okay.
Safety Council.
The State Highway Safety Office,
the safety
Is that what it's
officer.
called now?
What's the other group? What's the nonprofit?
Vermont Highway Safety Alliance.
Who are you?
I'm sorry.
Who is that?
It's a non-profit. It pulls together stakeholders from all different types of transportation backgrounds. So
And do
I
you,
wish I could speak better.
Is it focused on the bike to bed?
It's focused on a lot of the same critical emphasis areas that our strategic highway safety plan is.
Their advisory.
do you have their contact, Maggie?
Do we have a new person?
I can get you that.
Yeah.
If you could make sure that Megan has the contacts to those people. We would. And we'll get them on. We're gonna push them to come early too.
Yes.
If we're in that spot where we're before any budgets and before we have the miscellaneous DMV bill and so it's a good time for us to get educated. And thank you both.
Yes, thank you all for your time.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
We are on with the secretary at 10:50.